Hey, what's up everybody? This is James with MTB Channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Niner Jet 9 RDO. So I've had this Jet 9 RDO for about 2 years now, and I've been super happy with it. Honestly, I tried probably half a dozen different bikes and settled on the Niner. Several reasons why, and I'll go through each of those in detail. So this is my 2017 Jet 9 RDO. It's a super solid bike. I love it. I've had it for 2 years now, and I've had a great time on it. So there's several reasons why I got this bike over the other models. Some of the other models that I considered were the Tallboy, the Ibis Mojo 3, the Yeti 4.5, the Mach 429. There's quite a few bikes that I test rode and ended up settling on the Jet. There's several reasons. I have some really good local support. There's a bike shop nearby, Bauer House Bikes. Jason down there takes really good care of me. You know, honestly, this bike just fit the best. It has great geometry for me, and I love the versatility of being able to run the 27 plus wheel set or the 29. There's advantages to both. I had it built up with 27 plus wheels, but I do run it with 29-inch wheels regularly, especially for racing. So let me just take you through the bike. First off, I got on here now the 27-inch plus wheel set. It's a custom light bike wheel set that I have built up down at Bauer House Bikes, and super light wheel set. In fact, it's just as light. It's about 1,800 grams, which is pretty light for a super wide rim like this. This is a 40 mil internal, 50 external, and those wheels have been super solid. They've stayed true, and I love them. Like I said, I do switch back and forth. I got a set of Industry 9 29-inch Enduro 305s that I also use quite often, and they've been super solid. So first off, I'm running this just 1x11. I got it built up with the race face turbine crankset. I had a KS Lev dropper, so I just threw that on there. I also had it built up with a 140 fork, so I just keep it at 140 when I run the 29-inch wheel set, and I don't change it. I know Niner recommends going to a 130 with a 29-inch wheel set, but I don't find that that's really necessary. In fact, I like the slackened geometry running the 140. So right now, as far as angles go, C-tube angles right at about 74.5, and the front fork or the head tube angle is right at about 66.5. So it's pretty slacked out. When I run it with 29, of course, it's a little more. So I think it's probably closer to 67 with the 27 plus wheels, and 26.5 with the 29. It's also a fairly light bike. This bike runs at about 27.5 pounds without pedals. And I have fairly, heavy crank set, and I run a box components cassette that's pretty heavy. So you could easily build this bike up probably around 25 pounds with some lighter componentry, but it's been super solid and durable for me. One thing I'd say is that this CVA, this CVA suspension system is super solid. It's got a very, very plush feel to it, much more plush than any of the other suspension platforms that I tried. So the biggest difference between this suspension platform and say the DW Link was that it's very plush at the beginning of the stroke. So you can feel it soaking up all those little tiny bumps. I have this bike set up with a lockout. The reason I went with the lockout is because the rear shock is super low and it's hard to get to when you're pedaling. So I went ahead and got that lockout. I really like the lockout, honestly, especially for racing. Just you can flip that thing super quick, not even think about it. I've got the 3-position adjust on that. This is the Fox Float Evol, the rear shock. That's typically the setup that it comes with. I think there's also a RockShox option, but I really like that setup. I've got it set up 1x11. I've got a race face turbine crank. I've got a box components, 1146 cassette on the rear, and then I've got a Shimano XTR derailleur, and that setup has worked great for me. Also got a dropper seat post. I have this laying around, the Fox Lev DX and WTB rocket saddle. This bike, like I said, has been fantastic. The geometry just fit me really, really well. Like I said, it's 74.5 on the seat tube and about 66.5 with the 140 fork in the front, which is perfect for me. I think this is a great all-around bike. I'd recommend it to anybody. I've ridden it in super rough, Moab, rocky, ledgy terrain, also in super smooth XC trails, and it's been great in both. Honestly, I just throw the 29-inch wheels for racing, and it does great. Lately, I've been running the 29-inch wheels with a 2.6 in the front and then a 2.2 in the rear. The clearance on this bike is pretty solid. I can get at least a 2.4 29-inch tire in the rear. The 2.8-inch plus tires also work quite well. I haven't tried the 3.0s, but I think they could probably work as well. One thing, this bike does build up really light. You could probably build it up around 25 pounds if you use the right components. So there's, this bike would make a really, really solid XC race bike if you built it up light, but I really wanted a versatile trail bike, so this is how I keep it set up. So for the cons, there's a few things I don't like about this bike. One is that this shock is super low, and you can't really reach down to change it, so to turn it off and on. So that's why I ended up going with the lockout. That can be a little bit of a pain. It adds a little bit of weight to put the lockout on, but honestly, I think it's worth it. I wasn't a fan of the original lockout. I have the old Fox style lockout on there, and they revised the front fork to reverse it. So now open is when you click it all the way down. Before it was the opposite, and the spring would get stuck, which was a pain. So now that they've reversed that, I haven't had any trouble at all with the lockout. The other thing is, if you're not locked out, there is a little bit of pedal bob. It's not bad, but it's not nearly as stable as, say, a DW Link. The DW Link is super solid. The VPP in the Santa Cruz was also pretty stable, but honestly, no bike climbed better than that Ibis Mojo, but none of them felt nearly as plush as the Niner, and I really liked that open feel. I wanted a super active suspension, especially since I was going to run a lockout anyway. That active suspension is what I was looking for. All right, let's throw this thing on the scale and see how much it weighs. There it is, 27.35 pounds. All right, that concludes a review on the Niner Jet 9 RDO. Like I said, it's an awesome all-around trail bike. You really can't go wrong with it. I absolutely love mine, and I'd recommend it to anybody.